everyone, welcome to another class here at Humana of Nutritional Intervention with Protective Diet. I'm Julie Marie Christensen, the creator of the Protective Diet, and I'm here to do a class today on green burritos, and we're using collard greens today, and I want to tell you, excuse me one second, I have it here. I want to tell you a little bit about why I want you to incorporate more leafy greens into your diet. And if you are, is anyone here in the room on Coumadin or blood thinners? No one, that's great. Okay, well, just to cover what I was talking about is Coumadin is a blood thinner, and it's sometimes used for AFib to prevent strokes. And this blood thinner, you can work with your doctor, whoever is adjusting your clotting factor in your blood, to incorporate these leafy greens. And I'm going to tell you why we need to incorporate these greens. Greens are the strongest natural vasodilators that we can include in our diet. They're stronger than most vasodilator medications. And we take those medications to relax the muscle cells within the vessel walls, our veins and our arteries. And this improves blood flow. So if you're struggling with high blood pressure, is anyone here having issues with high blood pressure? Okay, that's why we want to incorporate them, but there's some other reasons as well. Your heart doesn't have to pump as hard, and blood pressure is relieved from incorporating these leafy greens. And how it works... Hi there. Hi. Welcome. How it works is when we chew our leafy greens, they mix with the saliva in our mouth, and that produces nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is the vasodilator. It prevents cardiovascular disease by dilating the blood vessels and improving blood flow. Nitric oxide also improves our brain function. So if anyone's here worried about dementia or avoiding cognitive decline, we want to eat these leafy greens as we get into our older years. If we can start as children eating them, that would be even more beneficial. Nitric oxide is a powerful vasculator and the main ingredient behind erections. A lot of people don't want to discuss this, but men get the flag when they have erectile dysfunction. It's symptoms of blocked blood flow. So if we're eating these leafy greens, it's going to improve that if erectile dysfunction is an issue. And it will also improve our blood flow, reducing our risk of heart disease. Women don't get that kind of a symptom, so sometimes we end up with a heart attack without having a symptom that would bring us to the doctor to address high cholesterol or high blood pressure. So nitric oxide levels greatly improve with the addition of the leafy greens. They'll also improve your workouts. Your recovery time is shortened when we're eating these things due to the oxygen in the blood that they create. So nitric oxide also shortens recovery time when we do exercise. So we want to include these in our diet. Dr. Esselstyn is one of the doctors that I learned under with my Cornell program about plant-based nutrition, and he says that we should be incorporating leafy greens for the prevention of heart disease and reversal of heart disease 6 times a day. Now, he's not talking about bowls of them. You could add just a handful of leafy greens to your dinner, or use them in the way we're going to use them today. The team of researchers that discovered nitric oxide's effects received a Nobel Prize in 1998. This was a pretty major discovery, and a lot of us aren't eating leafy greens because we haven't received this information, and hopefully after today, we'll all start incorporating these in our diet more frequently. So, does anyone have any questions about nitric oxide?
Which are the leafy greens you're talking about?
Any vegetable that's high in nitrates. So this one is collard greens, which is good for the application of the green burrito shell we're going to be using. Kale, parsley, anything that's leafy and green, romaine lettuce, any green leafy vegetables. So pick your favorite, and I just want to expose you to one that maybe isn't as popular today so you can taste it. It's a very mild green. Some greens, like mustard greens, are going to be very strong in flavor, and those aren't the ones to start off with if you're just starting to eat greens. Try the collards, try the kale, cook the kale. I have a recipe on protectivediet.com for Asian style kale. It's a great garlic stir-fry type dish that kind of camouflages maybe the bitter taste of kale that some people notice. But after you eat it for a while, you actually start to crave it. You enjoy the flavors and they become more familiar to you. So with the collard greens, what I want to do is create a burrito shell so that we're going to make a black bean and corn salad and brown rice and a faux sour cream. It's a dairy-free sour cream that has no cholesterol. It's very clean. And also a salsa verde, which is a green salsa. And we're going to wrap it up in this collard, and that's going to be our little burrito shell. You could also use corn tortillas. This is something else, an alternative to the collards. If you are on Coumadin or blood thinners, I want you to talk to your doctor about adjusting them based on your expected intake of greens so that you can incorporate these vasodilators. These are essential in reaching optimal health or reversing disease. So corn tortillas, all they contain is corn and lime. These are great. These are local here, El Milagros. We're lucky to have these. You can use these instead to fill your burrito or to create your burrito or taco.
And do you get them at Whole Foods?
El Milagros are in any local grocery store. All of the ingredients that we're using here today you can find at any local grocery store. It's not from, none of the ingredients here are from a health food store or specialty store. You can find these, our local grocery stores here are Jewel, Myers. They'll have everything that's here. So in order to get these collards nice and soft so that we can bite them a little easier and they're a little milder in flavor than them raw, we just fill a pot of water. You want to bring it to a boil, and I'm sorry I can't demonstrate this today. We can't use any heat in our cooking in this class today. But anyway, you want to take your collard, and it comes like this, and you're going to cut this hard, long stem off so that it looks like this, because this is going to be a little bit too tough to bite. So you could use a kitchen scissor, or you could use your knife and just cut it like this.
You cut that off before you boil them?
Cut it off before you boil it. So you're not actually going to boil the collards. You're going to fill this with water about to here so you can put them in fully. And when it comes to a boil, turn the heat off. And then you're going to dunk that in there and count to 10. That's all it takes. And it will become soft like this to where it's more pliable. You can see the difference. This one's a lot firmer, this one's a lot tenderer. If you overcook them, they'll tear when you try to roll them, but they'll still be great. Just shred it up and eat it in a bowl if your first time, if it doesn't go over so well.
What's that process called?
Blanching. So all you're doing is putting it in very hot water. It can be boiling water, but it's not necessary. You can turn it off at the boil so that you don't overcook them. You'll be able to control it better if it's just very, very hot, almost boiling water. So that's how we make the leaf for the burrito shell. These collards, you could use them in so many different ways. Just to give you a couple ideas, you can take them and slice them. You can roll up a whole bunch of them and slice them into little ribbons and toss them into your pasta water at the last few minutes that you're boiling pasta and strain it. They'll be tender, put your sauce on it. You won't even notice they're in there. You can shred them up and add them to soup. Every time that you're incorporating these into each meal, you're creating that magic inside to dilate those blood vessels and make your blood flow better and lower your blood pressure. So we want to get those in the diet. So the second recipe I'm going to make today is the black bean and corn salad. I make this salad quite frequently if I'm traveling. Jerry and I just got back from 18 days on the road. We did a protective diet tour and we went and visited a bunch of students and did video recordings of their testimonials and the changes they've experienced on a protective diet. And we started off in California. We were on 7 flights and ended up in Florida. We were masters at traveling and being able to stick to our dietary needs the entire trip. We never went off plan. And this salad was a big help. I could make this salad very easily with a bowl and a spoon in a hotel room, no problem. And a knife would be helpful. And when I didn't have a knife, I just skipped the bell pepper, or I asked a neighbor to help me with the cutting the lime. But you could do all of this very easily traveling. This is a great salad to use to keep in your refrigerator. I make a double batch of it, and I make rice bowls out of it with rice and this salad and a little shredded romaine. It reminds me a lot of Chipotle's burritos, that kind of style. So this is 1 can of black beans. When you're buying black beans, I want you to look for the ingredients. All they contain is black beans and water or salt. If you're buying the unsalted, if you're watching your sodium intake, they're available at every grocery store now. So 1 can, I want you to drain them and rinse off the liquid that's in the can. I did that before class. And then I have 2 cups of frozen and defrosted corn. If you're taking this fresh out of your freezer, just fill up a bowl with some water, put the frozen corn in there and drain it off, and then add it to your salad. If it's summertime, you could cut the corn off the cob. And then we have onion. I have a red onion here today, but you could use any style of onion that you like. I love the sweet onions as well. I like the color that this red onion gives this salad. When I'm buying onions, I buy the onions that look the freshest at the grocery store that week. They're all good for us. One's not better than the other. It's all based on taste, and for me, what's freshest. This recipe also requires tomatoes, and this is an example of, I skipped the tomatoes this week when I was at the grocery store. I actually went to 3 different grocery stores looking for the best collard greens I could find for you guys, and all of the tomatoes looked really bad. They looked like they were just sitting around. Yeah, they were either like orange, they weren't ripe, so I knew the flavor wouldn't be good, or they were overripe. Even the ones at Costco this week didn't look good. I don't know if it's because of the cold we're having, but so I left them behind. This salad, if you're missing one of the ingredients, it's not going to make it or break it. If you like corn more than beans, put more corn in it. It's not like a baking recipe where it has to be exact and precise. So you're going to chop this onion fine. You could also do this in a food processor if you're challenged with arthritis and you can't use a knife like this. With a protective diet, a whole foods plant-based diet is what it is. It reduces the inflammation in the body because we're eating alkaline foods. There's no foods included that cause inflammation. So you will have a reduction in your symptoms of arthritis, if not completely reverse arthritis, if that's something you're suffering with. We have many students that their arthritis is a thing of the past after practicing this diet full time. And then we're adding a red bell pepper. And I'm dicing all the ingredients for this salad the same size as the beans and the corn. That would be your guide. It's going to give it the most eye appeal, and it'll make it nice in the burrito. Does anyone have any questions so far?
You're just using the red for the color.
For the color, you could use any color bell pepper you wish. Pick the freshest looking bell pepper. If you're in the grocery store and a recipe calls for a red bell pepper and the other bell peppers look better than the red, choose those. Always go by the freshest. When I'm menu planning, a lot of people ask me, well, I need to menu plan and pick out recipes for the week and then make a grocery list. I recommend going to the grocery store and looking at what's freshest and working with that to create the recipes. Our website is designed that you can put an ingredient such as a red bell pepper into the website, and all of the recipes are going to come up that include red bell peppers. So if they're on sale that week and they're looking beautiful, buy them up, go home, and put it in there. And I also teach pantry stocking so that you have all the staple ingredients like brown rice and black beans and oats and things like that all ready and waiting for you. Any other questions about a protective diet or?
What did you say about arthritis and osteoarthritis? Does it cover both of them?
Yes, there definitely. You're going to have relief they're both inflammatory related diseases. And when you're eating this style, when you're eating whole foods and all plant-based, no animal products, no added oils, no sugars, we're eating all whole foods, you're going to have that reduction in inflammation. You're going to feel amazing. The energy level is going to increase. So you see, we're just tossing everything into here. And then we have 1 clove of garlic, and I want to mention, one of you was asking about this garlic press I use. I swear by this brand of garlic presses. I cook in a lot of people's kitchens teaching private cooking lessons, and I've broken their garlic presses putting a clove in there. This is the brand of this one is Xylus, and the model is Susie. And this was promoted by the Frugal Gourmet back in the 70s, and I've had this for years. And when you use it, the reason I use a garlic press is you break off a clove, you leave the skin on it. You're not messing around, you're never touching the garlic, you don't get garlic fingers. You're putting it right into the garlic press unpeeled, and you're pressing it through. And this garlic press makes it really easy to press through versus some of the others. And then you're cutting off the chopped garlic, putting it into the dish, and then this comes off very easily. Hopefully. It's not because you're watching. But normally I can just flip this right off with the knife, but I'll show you with my fingers. It comes off in one piece. And you throw this away, and then you don't have the garlicky fingers.
Very nice.
And you don't have to mess around with chopping really finely. The other thing I want to give you a tip about garlic, don't buy that pre-chopped garlic in the jar. It's loaded with food additives. Anything that stays good for years in your refrigerator, it's not a good idea to eat it. And this will save you money buying garlic like this in the bulbs. Now, if it's just one of you and you don't go through your garlic and it starts to shrivel up, I encourage you to eat garlic every day. It's one of the most powerful foods we can eat for anti-cancer protection. But if you're not going through it that quickly, break off the cloves just like this. Don't peel them, just leave them like this, and put them in a freezer bag. And then when you need a piece of garlic for a recipe like this, take it out completely frozen and put it in your Susie garlic press. And this one's designed so well, it'll press a frozen clove of garlic right into your dish. And it tastes exactly the same as fresh. So that's what I do with, we use a lot of garlic because I run a test kitchen, so we go through the bag from Costco like within a couple weeks, which is insane. But Jerry, I don't know why I'm calling you Gary today. I don't really know who Gary is, but that's Jerry, my husband.
I was gonna say,
His husband of the day. No, he and I eat a lot of garlic because we like the flavor it gives. Plant-based recipes, and it's very beneficial to our health.
Well, it's supposed to be good for you too, isn't it?
Oh, it's so good for you. It's one of the most anti-cancer preventative foods that we can incorporate into our diet without any, there's no calories to it. It's a seasoning. Then we also have cumin.
Julie,
Yes.
how long do you keep the garlic out fresh, without freezing it? How long does it stay out?
How long do I keep garlic out fresh like this? I use through it before it ever goes bad, so I don't have a real good gauge on it. But in the house when it's dry, like this time of year in the winter, it should stay okay, but it might start to deflate. And in the summertime, it might start to sprout, like a green sprout. Do not refrigerate your garlic. If you refrigerate your garlic, it will sprout. Those sprouts aren't bad to eat. You can actually plant a clove of garlic like this straight into dirt in a little pot in your house. I highly recommend trying it. And just cover it with dirt slightly and it will grow a garlic scape. And you could use that as a green onion if you want. It only takes a couple weeks to grow it. So if it's in a moist environment, like in the soil and you're watering it, it will sprout. If it's in the refrigerator, that's a moister environment than outside the refrigerator, and it will sprout. So I just keep it in a cool, dark place, just like your onions and potatoes. And it should last several weeks like that. But now that you know you can freeze it, you might as well freeze half of whatever you have, and then it's always there for you. Buy it when it's on sale, or get it at Costco. So we have ground cumin. This is going to add a smokier flavor. And then some chili powder. This is mild chili powder. It's not a hot chili powder. If you like spicy, go ahead and put the hot chili powder. And then a little sea salt. And you can skip the sea salt. I'm just putting a little in there today. If you're watching your sodium intake, this is still very low in sodium. And lime. The lime is going to actually give you the same taste as salt. They're very close on our taste buds, so if we're trying to cut back on salt, use more citrus. Use the zest of the citrus fruits, and you'll get away with a lot less salt if not eliminating it completely. And just juice one lime. And whenever I make this recipe, I always double it because it's delicious and it'll keep up in your refrigerator for 5 days. You can eat off of it. Make it your lunches for the week. This packs up beautifully.
What's the difference between sea salt and regular salt?
Not much difference. Nutritionally, there's no nutritional difference. Sea salt, they're taking the seawater and evaporating it, and that's what's remaining. Okay. And then you have the option to add in a jalapeno diced if you like it spicy. The one I made today for you guys does not have the jalapeno.
Thank you.
But we're going to make a salsa verde, which is a green salsa made with tomatillos, and I'm going to make half spicy and half not spicy because I know there's a lot of spicy lovers here. And this is cilantro. Is anyone totally opposed to cilantro in the room? Everybody likes cilantro. I love this group. Cilantro is not an herb that I could appreciate when I first was introduced to it. It tasted like soap to me. Now I love it. I can't get enough. And that's evidence of what they've proven in science. If you don't like something, give it a try. By your 10th try, by try I mean just taste it. By your 10th try, you'll actually start to either, deal with it where you can eat more of it, or you'll start to like it, like I did with cilantro. We
There's a
recommend
phrase
this.
called exposure equals preference. So
Yes.
the more you try something, the more you begin to prefer it.
Yeah, exposure equals preference. Thanks, Jerry. And this could be put into a mini chopper or a food processor as well, if you're not comfortable with the knife.
So fresh.
So fresh smelling. Now also keep in mind, this is a vasodilator as well, because it's a green leafy vegetable. So we use herbs usually for flavoring, but think about them where you can apply more and more in your diet. Parsley, cilantro, dill, any green leafy herb, basil. It's going to promote nitric oxide and help your blood flow, help your circulatory system. It's also going to improve your immune system. We have cells that line all of our blood vessels and lymph vessels called our endothelium, and I've talked to a lot of you about this before, and they are critical in our wellness. They're critical in keeping us free of disease. So we want to eat foods that promote them and remove foods that degenerate them, that are in our diet. Those foods that break them down are animal products, sugars, caffeine, smoking, toxins around us, cleaning products, things like that. But our diet is the most controllable thing that we can do, is eliminating those foods out of our diet.
What kind of knife you are using to cutting this?
This actually, my mom ordered these knives for me. From I think Home Shopping or QVC, the Emerald brand. It's nothing special. As long as you sharpen your knives and keep them sharp, which I do, always cut on a wooden cutting board or one of those jelly plastic boards. Never cut on glass or on plates, because it will dull your knife to where you can't home sharpen it with a little mini knife sharpener. My mom was, I noticed while we were traveling, our last stop was in Florida, and she has the same knives as I do, and they were all dull, and I couldn't get them sharpened with the little sharpener I had. And it was because she was using these glass, what she thought was cutting boards, but they're really surface prep boards. So if you can get yourself a wooden cutting board or those jelly boards, they're very inexpensive. Those will keep your knives a lot sharper. And a sharp knife makes it a lot of fun. You can see how quickly I can chop. There you go. And that's that salad. And I'm reserving a little cilantro here to use in our next recipe, which is for the salsa verde. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with tomatillos, this is a tomatillo. And it's in the tomato family, and it's used in a lot of, mostly in Mexican cooking, we see it. Here in this area, in the Chicagoland area, we're gonna get really fresh tomatillos. Some places where there isn't the Mexican population, we can't find these ingredients, but we're very blessed here to have them. So you're gonna peel this outer shell off. You're gonna put 6 or more of them, depending on the size batch. This batch, I'd use about 6 this size. They come smaller or bigger. When you're looking for them, you wanna look for really bright green ones and firm. Sometimes you pull away the peel and there'll be a rotten spot, so check them out as you're picking them out. All you need is 6 of them for this recipe. You're gonna put them in a pot of water and bring them to a boil, along with an optional jalapeno. This is up to you. If you don't like spice, just leave the jalapeno out. It's still gonna taste great without it. And I put the jalapeno and the tomatillos in here. When you know that the tomatillos are done, they turn lighter in color. So you wanna cook them until they're lighter. It only takes about 2 minutes while they're boiling. So then you will drain off the water, and you have your cooked jalapeno, and you're gonna put them into the blender. This is a super easy green salsa recipe. And I have a few extra here than 6 because I'm making a little bit larger of a batch. I'm gonna make half of it without the jalapeno and half of it with the jalapeno for those of you that don't like spice, so you can try it. And into this, we're putting a clove of garlic, I'm going to put a little bit extra garlic because I'm using more than 6 tomatillos.
There's no such thing as too much garlic.
All right. I really like this group.
We're ready.
You're ready.
No kissing tonight, guys.
You just make sure whoever you kissed, you
Yeah,
got some
yeah,
garlic.
You gotta put it
Okay.
down.
So I'm going to blend this up before I add the jalapeno and take half the batch out. If you're living with someone that is not fond of spice, do it this way. Or if you have kids or grandkids coming over, you can also add a little bit of salt to this, and that's optional as well. I'm going to blend it up a little bit. I should have put that in there. Okay. And I'm going to pour half of this into this jar for the mild version. And then I'm going to put my jalapeno in for the spicy version. Who likes just like a little bit of spice, but not like, who likes super spicy? Anyone here? You like super spicy? Are you guys ready to go for it? Should I put the whole thing in? Yeah? Well, how about if I'll take out.
Wait, not, want not.
Now, if you want to have it spicy, but not really spicy, take the seeds out, this inner membrane. Just remove those and use the outside of the jalapeno. If you're just getting into spicy food, which I encourage it, because the spice in food actually causes us to have the same experience as exercise. That feel-good hormone that's produced from exercise, we get the same thing from spicy food. Same thing as the hormones that we get, that feel-good hormone with sex, it's the same thing as spicy food. So let's go for some spicy food. Train yourself to like it. Start off with this much and put it in, blend it, taste it, see how it tastes. And just keep adding it until you like it a little spicier. I'm gonna take out half the seeds, maybe a little more than that. I don't wanna torture anyone because this is actually half a batch. I normally put 1 jalapeno with the seeds to 6 tomatillos. When I first started out, I didn't like spicy food, and I would just put a little piece, and then each time I made it a little spicier. Now I can't be spicy enough. And then give it a taste. Oh, I have a spoon here. Because sometimes the jalapenos, we call, my friend, she's Mexican, she actually worked with me and taught me this recipe. Her name's Eve. She said that sometimes the jalapenos are green. That's what her mom calls them when they have no heat to them whatsoever, and that can happen. So you want to taste it to see that it does have some spice. I'm going to put a little more in there.
There go the seeds.
It was a very disappointing jalapeno. Add it to this one. Jerry, if you wouldn't mind rinsing this out for me. Thanks.
Sure.
And then into the salsa, we're going to put cilantro. And this just depends how much you use. I think I have a 1/4 cup on there. It's based on how much you like it or not. I could chop up an entire bunch of cilantro and add it to my salsa because I love it so much. And the more you add, the better it is for you.
So you put the cilantro on top instead of blending it in with
We're going to
the-
mix it in.
Well, I mean, like, it wasn't in the food process.
Right. The
Okay.
reason that I
Because you
don't
want
put it in there, if you're using a regular standard blender, go ahead and put it in there, or a food processor. This blender will actually blend it till the salsa is
Overrides
just
it.
greener.
Yeah.
It'll make it a liquid, because this is a high-speed blender. You could pulse it in the high-speed blender, but the reason I didn't was because I wanted to add it after I added the jalapeno.
It's more attractive too.
It is prettier, the little
Yeah,
bits. When
that's
you go
true.
out for Mexican food, it's usually chopped. And then onions, you just want to dice them really fine. Any color onion, traditionally a white onion is used, or a Spanish onion. The sweet white onions are delicious in this. You could add red to make it prettier. There really is no right or wrong. But you see how easy it is to make your own homemade salsa verde. And there's a recipe on protectivediet.com for green enchiladas. And it uses the base of this without, as the sauce, without the onions and without the cilantro. It's really easy. And the filling is garlic mashed potatoes.
Oh.
And we use those corn tortillas. It's a delicious recipe. You should give it a try.
Uh-oh, that's one we're gonna have to have.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, the green enchiladas. They're called spicy green enchiladas. Maybe I'll make those for you here one day. I'm limited right now with not being able to use a hot plate, but hopefully that will work out soon, that we'll be able to do that again. It's just an insurance reason for right now.
One minute, come to their senses.
Okay. I want to put something in this one so we know it's spicy.
Well, it's a little bit darker green and fuller to begin with, so
All right.
that helps.
Okay.
Being the one not using it.
You need any salt or not?
I did put salt in it when I put it in the blender. It's on the recipe card there. And then we have one more recipe to make for inside the burritos. Thanks, Jerry. And this is a faux sour cream. I made this recipe when we did the tostadas. I don't know if any of of you were here for that class. And it's made with extra firm tofu. This Nasoya, Nasoya, is my favorite brand for using as a blended creamy base to any salad dressings, like my creamy ranch dressing. I use this as a base in the sour cream and mayonnaise.
Is it the sprouted one?
This one is not a sprouted one. This one's organic, it's non-GMO, and it's available at every grocery store.
Can you spell that brand name for us again?
Nasoya. I just prefer the flavor of this one and the texture over the other ones. Trader Joe's makes an extra firm brand one, but I find this one to have a creamier texture. So you're just going to cut open the plastic package and you're going to discard this liquid. We never use the liquid. It's a preserving liquid. It's never incorporated into any recipes. People write questions into me on my blog all the time if I should use it or not, so I want to make it clear. Just the brick of tofu. Into the blender or your food processor.
Sour cream.
And the juice of 1 whole lemon. And I'm going to squeeze the juice into a bowl because we have lots of seeds here. And this is going to give it the tang of sour cream. Without the fat, without the saturated fat, the dairy
Without
protein.
the calories.
Right.
And more protein. Yay.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about protein, bringing that up. A lot of people are under the misconception that protein is the most necessary nutrient in our diet. And there's 3 nutrients in our diet: fat, carbohydrates, and protein. And all 3 of them are found in whole plant-based foods. So for example, this lemon, it has trace amounts of fat, just enough for us to absorb the vitamins in this lemon. It has carbohydrates. It has protein. In our cilantro, same thing. In our corn tortillas, it's a whole grain. It has all of those 3 nutrients in just the right balance. So we don't need to add extracted fats to our diet. Those are just olive oil, corn oil, whatever oil, coconut oil. Not one is greater than the other, and they're all 100% fat. And we've learned through science, and a doctor that I follow, Dr. McDougall, he says it over and over again, and this has been proven in science: the fat we eat is the fat we wear. So we don't want to go pouring olive oil on our food or using it.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Well, then it's all right to have avocados and nuts then, right? That's got fat in it. Is that all right?
I do not include it in my diet, and I do not recommend
Those are
higher
fats?
fat foods such as, she was saying, avocado or nuts, because the highest nutrient in those foods is fat.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to reverse disease, we want to eliminate all the saturated fats out of our diet.
Yeah, that's a new thing for me. That's interesting.
I know, and they're promoted like they're superfoods.
Right.
All of the nutrients found in, or all of the vitamins
Right.
found in nuts and avocados, we can get those vitamins out of other foods that
Okay.
are lower in fat.
That, I just.
And she
I
has a
just
great
wanted to-
recipe, which I'll plug it because I use it all the time, for chickpeas instead of avocados for a faux guacamole.
There's a recipe card up here on the table if you want to take one with you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's chickpeas and spinach, and you wouldn't know it was an avocado.
It's just-
As you can see in my before picture, I was vegan. I was eating a plant-based diet with avocados and nuts.
Okay.
It didn't work.
I'm
It
trying
doesn't
to
work.
use them for me, my cholesterol, so I don't have to worry about it. So I use them as a protein, because I eat 5 or 6 times small meals a day.
Okay.
So
So why are you eating the avocados and nuts? For protein, you said?
Protein and
Nuts?
fat.
Nuts have way more fat in them than protein. The marketing of nuts is it's made major misconceptions for
Okay.
people. The most
No.
ideal form of protein is whole plant-based foods, like I was explaining. You take a leaf of spinach, it has more protein in it than any of the ingredients. It has trace amounts of fat to absorb the vitamins and nutrients, and carbohydrates for energy. Whole grain pasta has protein in it. Your protein needs for your day are between 6 to 10% protein per meal all day.
Great,
If you look at breast milk,
great.
it's 6 to 8% protein. At the highest rate of growth in our life, we're eating 6 to 8% protein, and it's the ideal food for humans. So then when we go off of breast milk, we don't need more protein because we've already done the most growing we need to grow. If we start adding foods into our diet because they're high in protein, it's not necessary because everything has protein in it. Every single one of these whole plant-based foods has protein in it. These are loaded with protein. How do you think a cow gets as big as they get, or a horse? They're eating grass.
Right.
Or a donkey. It lives on grass exclusively. And they're lean. They're not, you don't see obese
Thank you
animals
for
in nature.
explaining that to
Sure,
me.
that's a great question. So, yeah, you want to, I'd say our average protein intake is between 40 and 60 grams a day on a whole foods plant-based diet. That's
Really, that's what
ideal.
I'm going for. I'm
Yeah.
going for about 60 grams per
And you don't even have to count if you're eating brown rice, corn, things like we're having today.
Quinoa and
Quinoa,
lentils.
yes.
Okay.
You can eat all of those great things, but you could get all of your dietary needs eating just potatoes. If we switched from a standard American diet of what people typically eat, they go through the drive-through and pick
I
up a lot of people do.
I
I'm
was
saying-
over 400 pounds once.
Oh, good. I'm
So
glad you're
I-
not going through the
No,
drive-through
no.
anymore.
I don't go.
Compared to a standard American diet, what people are eating, they're having pizza for dinner, they might have salad with it, that kind of thing. Or chicken breast and vegetables. Compared to that, if we just switched over to potatoes, we'd be better off.
Wow.
So you don't need, I want you to eat a variety of different colors and different fruits and vegetables and whole grains, eat a variety, but it's not necessary to eat all of these newer grains that are added into the market. They're being promoted for variety, but it's not necessary. Okay, so we have the juice of 1 whole lemon in there with the tofu. And we have our sour cream. I use this on everything from tostadas, which I make baked tostadas using those corn tortillas. You just bake them in the oven, 400 degrees, about 14 minutes, depending on your oven, and until they're nice and crispy. And I'll put salads like this, or I have a recipe for unfried black beans that you could smear onto the tostadas with some shredded romaine lettuce, another leafy green, and the sour cream dream, and a little bit of salsa.
Look how
So that's
creamy
it.
it is.
Beautiful, creamy sour cream dream. I'm going to walk over here and show you how to assemble one of the green burritos, and then I'm going to let you assemble your own today. Okay. So I'm gonna put this card next to the spicy one. And this one's the mild one. The mild one will be first in line. So pass the mild to get to the spicy. So let me know if I'm not in the shot here, Jerry, for the rolling of it.
Your head is in, but your hands,
Okay,
everything below your
So
shoulder.
I'm putting my leaf down on the plate. And you want to take care not to overfill these burritos because you want to be able to wrap them. You could make them into a taco and just eat it like this and fill it, where you don't wrap it if you overfill them. Because mostly when people make these, they have a harder time rolling them if they overfill them. So when I eat them, You want to get to the closest to the cut side because you're going to leave that side open when you roll your burrito. I have to mention, kids love these. They love the green burritos. Let them assemble their own burrito. If you have your grandkids over or your own children, they'll get into it because they're seeing exactly what's going into it. And the green leaf is very mild in flavor. Just layer it up just like they do at Chipotle. And then you're going to take this. Is this a good spot, Jerry, here?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a little camera going here. We broadcast this to thousands of our students that are at-home viewers. So you're going to fold one side over. You could do it where you fold both sides and just fold up the bottom. A traditional burrito is folded halfway, then the bottom is folded up, and then the side is folded. And if you were making these up and you were having a party, you could lay them on the platter like that because that vein of that leaf, it's beautiful. And then to eat it, you're just going to take a bite off the top. Keep the bottom sides closed.
Cook gets to tell us if it's tasty.
So come on up and make your own burritos. Hope you enjoy them. And while you're assembling, if anyone has any more questions, please ask them so I can share the answers with the group. Any questions?
Yeah, I have some more questions about this. Because actually, I'm a leader of the
Okay.
I have people in that do really well. I must have all the skill sets to I do need to know, I don't know a lot. Do you recommend, like, you can have 6 and you can talk home it? It's a big you don't believe it, that's a strong.
Right, no. Actually, I'll answer both those questions about the oil. She's asking, she's a leader of a weight loss group. I'm just sharing this with the camera because there's people at home that want to see. They're interested. And she uses some olive oil. Is that okay? And also she wants to know, are cooked vegetables better than raw vegetables? And no, one's not better than the other. We're getting different things from them. And studies have shown in kale, when we cook it, it actually gives off healing phytochemicals. They're studying deeper and deeper into phytochemicals of plants. And when you tear kale, it produces these phytochemicals to help heal itself because it's a torn leaf. They work the same way in our body. Also, when we put them in boiling water, they produce these phytochemicals to protect themselves. And then we're taking them in and they're working as protection in our body. Now, as far as eating cooked kale and raw kale or collards or any vegetable, we can eat twice as many cooked vegetables as we can raw. Because if I sat there with a bowl of collard greens shredded up, I would get tired of chewing. So if I cook them, if I shred them, and I put 5 cups or 6 cups of them in a pan with a little vegetable broth and garlic, and I steam them, they turn into like a little tiny serving. And then I'm getting 5 cups of greens into my one meal.
When I do it with soups, I always put greens.
Always. That's excellent, excellent. So eat some cooked, some raw. I always say to split your plate, half starch, half vegetable, and eat some
And how are
cooked
you
and some
on
raw.
fruits or fruits?
Fruits, go for it. If you're diabetic, there's 2 fruits that I would avoid, which are cantaloupe and watermelon. You want to keep those limited. You can have some, but
Is
not
that because of the glycemic index?
Yeah, they spike the blood sugars out of all the fruits, but any of the other fruits are good to go. Go ahead and eat them. The fats, the olive oil. Now, if you're using 1 tablespoon of olive oil, that's 13.5 grams of fat.
It's twice the fat. For carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, fat is twice the amount of calories.
Right.
As, you know, I do know that, and I do know that it's limited. But I didn't realize that inflammation, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's an acidic food in the body.
Okay, so it's acidic, that's
Yes.
why, okay.
The
That
other
makes
reason
sense.
for eliminating the oils is the fat content. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. If we take in too many calories and they're fat calories, our body rapidly stores them into our fat cells. They just dump it over. They don't even have to do any changing. If you did a biopsy of my fat cells, you would see what fats I eat the most of. So they don't have to change the molecule, they just store it right as it is as olive oil.
They've been having fun with me.
Oh yeah, so not before, you know now. And part of mastering weight loss and maintaining weight loss is education. So I'm so glad you have this tool now.
That's a big one, that.
Right. And carbohydrates, if we overconsume starches like rice and potatoes and pasta, we're not going to rapidly store that as body fat. If we're not diabetic, our body's going to take those carbohydrates and dump them into our muscle cells and use them as glucose energy for later, for when we've got to chop up more kale or whatever we're doing in our activity. It's not going to store them as body fat. So stick to the starches. Increase your starches, eliminate your fats, and you're going to see rapid weight loss.
Oh, well, what do you think about the food now? What's the pyramid? I mean,
Well, I have to say the food plate, the food pyramid, all of those, the original food pyramid was designed and provided by the dairy industry
okay, I did not know that.
for educational purposes to encourage the consumption of animal products. So now we have my plate and it looks great, but it's still got that little cup of dairy because they provide that, the
money to do
paperwork.
it, they.
Yes.
Okay, that
Yes.
makes great.
So my advice to you would be to follow a whole foods plant-based diet. Don't worry about it. This has every single thing we need to get everything. You could make this green with brown rice in it. I made the brown rice today, by the way, with vegetable broth instead of water, so it has a little more flavor to it. Look for a vegetable broth that has no oil in it.
I read the way, I teach everybody, yep.
So if you just made these collard greens and filled them with brown rice, you've got a perfectly balanced meal. You don't need all of these other toppings. This just makes it more exciting because I love to eat, I like to cook, so I want exciting food on this planet. And we don't eat boring food on a protective diet at all. It's always good, it's always exciting. This is a little bit more unusual of a recipe. I usually specialize in comfort foods like Alfredo sauces and things like that, but are you setting her up?
Yes.
Yes.
I could have made it for you.
Oh, no, that's fine. We got it all worked
Is she
out.
gonna be able to wrap that one?
She didn't want it wrapped.
Oh, you're gonna have a taco
She
set?
told me exactly how she wanted it.
Okay.
What kind of brown rice do you use up there?
This one is Ludenberg brown rice. It's a short grain brown rice.
Yeah, that's
You
the
can
first
find
of the
it,
Imitation buckwheat.
I order it online from Amazon. We have a link for it on Protective Diet's website. It auto ships to my door. It's the best price. But you can find it at any grocery store carries that brand.
What kind again?
Ludenberg. I use that brand because it's grown in California, and in California they have a lower, there was an arsenic scare in rice, and it was due to rice crops being grown where they grew cotton years ago, and that increased the arsenic content of the soil, and it was being found in rice. So I choose to buy my rice from a California grower where they didn't grow cotton crops and they don't have that soil contamination. I don't really worry about the arsenic in rice because of you're cooking it in water and it's diluting, but also I'm eating a whole foods plant-based diet that's super rich in antioxidants, and the antioxidants we're getting out of our food protect us from contaminants, environmental exposure to free
I like
radicals.
one too.
It's not a worry.
How much did you lose between the before and after?
Pictures, it was a little bit under 100 pounds, I believe. I don't know exactly what my weight was here, but this was not my heaviest. My heaviest weight, I don't have a photograph. So I always encourage people that are adopting a protective diet to take a before picture because weight loss is rapid. I lost an average of 10 pounds a month until I reached my goal weight. It was quick, it was within a year. And that is the average for all of my students following.
Did you meet your handsome husband before or after your weight loss?
I met him after, but we were still eating oils
There's
on
an extra
that.
napkin.
So I
I'll
was
get you
about
one in a
20
second.
pounds heavier
Oh,
than
I did have one more.
today.
Never mind.
And what I did was I cut the oils. I met Jerry about 20 pounds heavier than I am today because I was eating a whole foods plant-based diet, but I was still including some oils and some nuts and some avocados. And when I learned the nutrition science behind eliminating those out of the diet and finding all of the nutrients in the nuts and the avocados in other low-fat, plant-based sources, I started to lose weight, and I quit my gym. In this picture, I was working out. I was doing 5 to 6 spin classes a week, eating nuts and oils. And then when I started reducing them, the weight started to come off, and eating more whole plant-based foods. But then I was about 20 pounds heavier than this photograph than I am now. I'm the same size here as this picture. And when I met Jerry, and we cut all of the fats out of the diet and dropped weight. Jerry, I met him when he was on a bike tour across the country. He was riding about 50 to 100 miles a day for 6 months, and he was 20 pounds more than he is today, eating a standard American diet.
Wow.
So he changed his diet, and he leaned down, and he has more energy.
And I stopped working out as much.
Yeah, we don't work out. We don't have a regular workout routine. We try to get our heart rate up, run up the stairs when we go up the stairs, because we want to promote, to break a little sweat every now and then, a few times a week, but no regular routines like spin classes or torturous exercise.
I had to swim. There's not a lot I can do. I'm not swimming. And so I can swim, but it's hard for me to get my exercise in, so that would be helpful.
Definitely, that's good.
I think your black bean and corn summer salad
I think it was a hit.
Very
That's
good.
good.
Thank you.
I want to invite Emily in if you want to go let them know.
I did, I just told
Oh,
them.
you did?
Yeah, I just told them.
Good,
We're trying to get them in here.
good. So they can have a taste. All right, well then, any more questions from anyone?
Is it okay if we switch these two over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
All right,
very
well,
much.
please come back next month. We'll be here again. Emily has the dates of when we'll be here, and we'll
It's
be doing
early in the
the
month.
Visit with
It's on,
Yeah, it's in, I think in 2
it's
weeks on a
on
Friday.
Yeah.
We must let us in.
Well, we're open to it. We're open to it.
Yeah, if you
And
ever
just
wanted
to let
to
people
host
know-
a class with like your weight loss group, if it's a large enough group, we have those options on the website. It's underneath services, and you can reserve a date with us. for
This
sure.
is her recipe card for the non-avocado faux guacamole and also homemade tortilla chips. She's got cards here. They are excellent. I've tried them. I do them over and over again. I've given them to lots of friends to try, and everybody loves it.
What did you guys think of the green burritos?
Very good. Very
Liked
good.
them? So was the was the collard greens a lot milder than you expected?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people think that they're very bitter, but they're not, and you get it in easily with those goodies.
Fortunately, I've had.
How do you talk a husband or a person you live with or a good friend into eating this kind of diet?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no interest whatsoever when I met Julie in diet. I didn't care about it at all. Then we started learning more, and honestly, when I saw the effects that eating animal products does to the heart, I realized that it didn't matter how much I rode my bike. It didn't matter how many world records I had set. If my heart didn't beat, I was dead. And then I learned about the erectile dysfunction. And then that, I'm like, okay, if I eat this way, I don't have to worry about my health. Then there you go. I didn't want to have arthritis ever. I didn't want to get dementia. You know, diabetes.
He also
all that
had
stuff.
elevated cholesterol. Now that's the
Right.
science behind it, but that's not how you changed over. It was the food. I cooked for him. I made cheesy scalloped
That's right.
potatoes. Oh, you're
It
lying
was the
that it was
science.
the science. The science sealed the deal, but the food kept you
Was
from
awesome.
going off plan. So we eat Italian sausage pizza. It's not made with sausage, but it has all the flavors of Italian sausage. So if you've got a man in your life that likes hearty food, check out the website. There's recipes like Alfredo sauce, cheesy scalloped potatoes. I call those man pleaser potatoes. Lead with the good food. Cook it, offer it to him. And if he doesn't go for it with that dish, try another dish another day. And just keep offering it. We have families that do this completely with little kids. We just visited a family in Utah, the Montoyas, and her husband actually travels 5 days out of the week. She packs him up with a cooler with all of his meals. He's perfectly satisfied with them. If she can manage this with a traveling husband sending him off with all these little meals packed up, anyone can do this. It cuts your grocery bills in half. We spend about $70 a week on all of our meals, which is very low. We eat primarily organics. I teach in my online classroom called Protective Diet Education how to order organic staple grains at reduced prices online. So we do a lot of that to save, and we can eat organic. The organic prices online for like our brown rice, it's cheaper than if I bought conventional rice in some stores. So I do the investigating and then bring it to my students. Also, our produce. We do include a lot of organic produce items, but it's not necessary. If you can't buy organic bell peppers, buy the conventional bell peppers and eat a lot more of them. Sometimes the organics cause us to eat less produce because it's so expensive. I don't worry so much about organic produce as I do eating produce. That's critical, and the organic produce sometimes is a distraction from people eating the produce on a daily basis, on a meal-to-meal basis. Every single meal we eat should have produce in it. And that's not a going trend right now because people think produce is expensive. But I teach people it's not. It's not. If we're not buying cheese, we're not buying fish. It's so expensive. We're not buying meat. We're not buying olive oil. That's a huge ticket item. Nuts are super expensive. I used to hate it when I used to make almond milk and I would run out of almonds. I'm like, oh boy, I gotta buy that bag of almonds. It was a big hit on the grocery bill that week. So we've eliminated all the high ticket items, and our pantry staples are mostly all organics, and I teach you how to buy them on sale and stock up. I don't buy one box of soy milk. I buy 12 when I'm at the store that has the best price. And then it's always ready and waiting for me in the pantry, or my pasta, or my rice.
Did you know that some stores will give you a discount, like Whole Foods will give you a
Yes.
10% discount if you buy the whole kit, like 12 or something?
Case,
A lot of
she's giving you
stores
case
don't.
discounts. Whole Foods will give you a case discount.
Right.
So once you get to know all of my recipes, I use the same staple ingredients. So I'm not having you run out to the store to buy some weird grain you never heard of, because the rice that we used here today, we use in the Spanish rice. We use in the stuffed bell peppers. We use it in the stuffed cabbage. We use it in, what else do we use the rice in? The Asian style kale we serve over it. We have so many recipes that use the same staple that if you have the rice, you can put in brown rice and you're gonna get all the recipes that have that grain you have in your pantry. Or the black bean and corn summer salad. If you make this salad, you can make burrito bowls. You could top just leafy greens as your salad dressing. You could do a lot of different variations with just learning a couple recipes. But I recommend the potato recipes. I recommend the enchiladas, the pasta recipes to lure in your husbands because they like the heartier meals. What you've been eating some of the recipes off of Protective Diet. What have been some of your favorites? Chocolate pudding. There's a chia seed chocolate pudding, so you could lead with the sweet treats.
I have 2 questions. How do you incorporate your produce in your breakfast? And then the second one, I went on your website and I've never eaten pork, but I saw a pulled pork recipe and I brought it and I left it in the car because I haven't had time to read it.
Okay.
But you had a picture of something which I wasn't familiar with.
Jackfruit.
Yes.
Okay. In the morning, to
Repeat the
incorporate.
question so we can all hear it.
Sure. In the morning, she's wondering how do we incorporate more produce into our diet. In the morning, Jerry always starts off with oats, and he slices a banana into it, and he puts whatever fresh fruit I have. If I have an apple, it's more fruit-based
More
in the morning.
fruit-based, okay. I
But
thought
if
you
you
meant the
want
green
to
stuff, you know.
incorporate green stuff into your diet, you can. Eat more savory foods.
Yes.
I have no problem with leftover salad.
Me either.
I call it soggy salad. I always make a huge salad for Jerry and I at dinner, and I toss the dressing in it, and I put a leftover container like this, and I'll eat it in the morning for breakfast, but I also include a grain with it, or a baked potato, something that's gonna sustain my energy till lunch.
Like quinoa?
Quinoa, you could
Thank
use
you.
any of
I
the
know
grains,
exactly.
brown rice, whatever you wanna, whatever your favorite is. There is no one better grain than the other, just as
They're
long
all
as
equal.
it's a whole grain. And your other question
It was the jackfruit.
the jackfruit. There's a recipe for, she's asking about a pulled pork. It's called jacked up pork,
Jacked
I
up
believe is
pork,
the
yeah.
name. I can't even remember.
It was interesting, and I said, I've never eaten pork, but I said, oh my goodness, I said, I know you don't, eat meat, so I was like,
There's
wow.
there's a fruit that's called jackfruit, and you might see it in the produce section if you go to Caputo's or Valley Produce, and it's this big green, spiky looking fruit, and when it's ripe, it's very sweet. When it's young and green, unripe, it's very mild and neutral in flavor, but it shreds up like pulled pork. So we take it and we put it in a slow cooker with a barbecue marinade sauce that's made with pineapple and tamari and just all sorts of different ingredients to make a sweet barbecue sauce. And then we let it slow cook in there, and I actually leave it overnight and then reheat it the next day, and it takes on the flavors of a pulled pork barbecue sandwich. So
And something to lure the guys in
That
with.
sounds
yeah,
good.
there's a great recipe for sloppy Jerry's, I call them. They're sloppy Joes. Just really simple throw togethers, and kids love these recipes. And usually any of the recipes that kids like, they're familiar foods, and that's what the guys are gonna like. They're not gonna wanna, maybe they're not gonna go for something like this unless they're on board for health, where you could make these fillings and serve them with the corn tortillas and shred up some romaine lettuce to start off with. Romaine lettuce is much more appealing to people just starting to eat vegetables than collard greens. But I have to say, the kids, they loved these, that made them. The students in my class, the moms that have incorporated this in their family, they love the green burritos because they could assemble them themselves.
I make steel cut boots, but I do it like once a week. But in my crock pot, like at night, I'll make, this smells so good. I make a chunky applesauce and then I mix in with it. I bet you would like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I put it in the morning. I wake up and I'm like, I can smell the cinnamon and everything. Because it cooks at night, you just put it on low and then I
Yes.
mix it in with it.
That sounds delicious.
Very good.
Another
Very
trick
easy.
is if you have a high-speed blender like a Blendtec,
I do.
you put one apple in there. Just take the seeds out and blend it, and you have applesauce, instant. But you're missing the aroma in the house. I
Yeah.
know, it smells so good.
Apple seeds are poisonous too.
Yeah, you want to take those out.
Take the seeds out.
There's a video on the website how to make homemade applesauce in the blender.
Yeah,
There's
it's so
a ton
easy.
of
So
videos for your resource that will help you on with this. Most recipes have a cooking video or a technique video to show you how to do this. Browning onions without oil so that we don't have to use any oil in our diet and eat empty fat calories. There's a video for browning onions without oil. Check that video out. On protectivediet.com there is videos button. You can click on that and you can see all of the cooking videos, or you can go to individual recipes.
Are you
and
more
look at them.
braising them or using a little liquid?
We're browning them.
You're
No,
actually
don't
browning
add
them
any
out?
liquid. You could use a pot just like this, a
Oh.
stainless steel pan. I have a lower casserole pan that's stainless, or an enamel coated casserole dish you could use. Put it on the stove, put it on about medium to medium high heat, and put your chopped onions in there and just let it brown.
So they're caramelizing?
They caramelize a lot faster than oil. Then when they get to the desired color, you're gonna stop it or deglaze the pan with vegetable broth, water, wine, whatever you like to cook with, whatever is appropriate for the recipe. All my soups, I start off with this browning onions, browning mushrooms, garlic.
Caramelizing.
That's what adds the flavor to the dish. The oil adds absolutely no flavor. I've browned onions with oil and onions without oil, and there's no flavor difference. It's the browning.
It's just another mindset that it's gravy.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
You're gonna produce really quick results if you cut out all those oils out of your diet and the fats.
I'm all for that.
Good,
Our
good.
next class, I just looked it up, is December 4th, which is Thursday.
Okay, next class is December
Which
4th.
brown
It's a
rice is-
Thursday at what time?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Which brown rice is
Party
easy to
will
cook?
come into.
Oh, for the brown rice, you have a recipe that's called Perfectly
Which
Cooked Brown
one?
Rice.
Which brand is that?
This one is Lunenburg brown, short grain brown rice, but the long grain or short grain has the same cooking time. And there's directions there. If you are not a master at cooking brown rice, try that recipe because it makes it simplified. A lot of people end up having to drain water out of their rice or it's burned at the bottom. This one will help you.
Are you saying Lufenberg or Lundberg?
Lundberg,
Oh, I was
thank you.
wondering, Lundberg. okay.
Lundberg, I always read that
Okay,
wrong.
That's okay,
Thank you
Lundberg.
for-
Oh, yeah, that is
thank you.
good.
Yeah, that's the brand. All right,
I learned from you, and people might not know that we can freeze tofu. If you can buy it on sale, you were telling us.
You can freeze it, but it does change the texture.
Slightly, yeah.
So if you're going to use it in an application like this, don't freeze it. But I find the store will put the tofu on sale. And when they put it on sale, I buy a lot of it. And it keeps, look at the date on there. This one was, the date on this tofu box was sometime in December. December 7th. And I bought this before we left for our trip. And it's been in my refrigerator. So I bought this in October, so it's going to last for several months. I'll always buy it when it's on sale. And when it's on sale, ask for a rain check.
Oh, yeah.
I do it all the time. I clear off the shelf of the tofu and I ask for a rain check, and you can have the rain check date extended if you don't get it in time. It's the way to go. We're using the same staples over and over again on a protective diet, so I want you to get the best price and save money because you're going to need it for smaller clothes. We call it BCS, baggy clothes syndrome. It's a problem that happens. You're going through the grocery store and you've been practicing a protective diet. Usually about on the third month, you're about 30 pounds down, and all of a sudden your pants are falling down. You're pulling them up, or the necks of your shirts are too wide. It's amazing the things that change and happen when we actually practice this at every meal. Good. That's what it's all about. I'm excited about this every day because it changed my life.
One more question.
Of
How do
course.
you talk your child or your loved ones into doing this?
The best way is to lead. How do you talk your children or your loved ones into doing this? Because when you learn about this information, you want everyone around you to be healthy. The best way is to walk the walk and lead by example. If they see a change in your health, then their eyes are going to open up to it and they're going to say, hey mom, or your friend or your husband, what are you doing? And then that's when you sell them on it, because we really can't encourage other people to do things that we're not participating in every day ourselves. You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I gotta go to bed.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care, everyone. Best of health.
Thank you. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You can find this at Myers NASOY. It's in the refrigerated section.
I mean, I'm big too.
And I always buy it at front for all my recipes.